Okay, in this topic, we're looking at operations with absolute values, problem type 2. I'm going to show you two different examples, that involve ultimately like the same problem. And there's two different like types of problems I'm going to show you. So for example A, let's say I give you the absolute value of negative 14 minus the absolute value of 5 minus 14. Okay, so this is one type of problem they may give you. What I would do if I were you is, first, you want to simplify inside the absolute values first, just as though like they were parentheses. Well, here you can't simplify the number negative 14, but you definitely could take the absolute value of 14, which I hope you can hear me better. I hope you can simplify the absolute value of 14, which the absolute value of negative 14, which is just how far away is negative 14 from 0 on a number line. It's 14 units. So the absolute value of negative 14 is positive 14. Now copy down the minus sign. That's really important. That minus sign, don't forget about. Now in here, some students accidentally think, ooh, 5 minus 14 in an absolute value must be plus. Like everything that's minus in an absolute value becomes plus. Not so. You would need to do 5 minus 14, which you would know is negative 9, right? That is still in the absolute value. I did not apply the absolute value. All I did was subtract 5 and 14 to get negative 9. Now what I'm going to do is write 14 minus the absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9. So that becomes the number positive 9. Now that negative, remember, comes from that subtraction symbol that I just dropped down. Then absolute value of negative 9 became positive 9. So 14, take away the 9, that's just 5. So this would simplify to 5. Okay? I'm going to show you a different problem. All right. Let's say, similarly, but different, let's do this one. Let's say I gave you the absolute value of 5 minus 14 in the absolute value minus the absolute value of negative 14 in the absolute value. All of that's in the absolute value. So this is kind of bizarre. Don't freak out. These big bars are absolute values around all of the stuff inside here. Okay? You have to work your way inside out. Okay? So what I would do again is focus on the inside of this first absolute value and just subtract 5 minus 14, that'd be negative 9. That's still inside of its own little absolute value signs here. Then I have minus the absolute value of negative 14. The value of this absolute value is positive 14. Now again, I just subtracted, or I dropped down that negative from the subtraction sign there. Keep in mind, these original big absolute values are still surrounding this whole mess. Before I worry about those ones, I'm going to do one more step on the red inside here. The absolute value of negative 9 is positive 9 minus 14. Now that's wrapped in these absolute values that were around the outside. Before I apply the absolute value, I subtract 9 minus 14. That's negative 5 in the absolute value, right? And then I take the absolute value of that, and that's positive 5. So at the end of the day, if you get a problem where you have these large absolute values wrapped around everything, keep in mind your final answer down here better be positive, because the very last thing that you do is take the absolute value of all of the stuff that's in there. So it might be negative, like here, the second to last step. After I did all the simplifying inside, it was negative 5, but once you take the absolute value, it became positive 5. So those are what the problems look like. Work your way inside out, and you should be fine. Good luck.